Hey, what is going on guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the 10 must-pick or ban champions for patch 7.14. So these 10 champions are, in my opinion, the ones that can have the most influence right now in this patch. So if you are looking to climb and that is your main goal, then you should probably be looking to either ban these champions or pick them in patch 7.14. Now I am going to try to do this in a bit of an order to where the champion at the number 10 spot is a little bit of a weaker pick than the champion at the number 1 spot, but don't pay too much attention to the order because all of these champions are very strong in this patch. But at the number 10 spot here is going to be Chogath. Now this is mainly Chogath in the jungle this patch. Chogath jungle has gotten a lot stronger. He got really good buffs to his E this patch, which make him a much stronger pick now. His E got like a lot of different changes, so I'm not going to go too much into detail about it, but basically the main change to it is that it now does percent health damage, which is really strong. Any ability that does percent health damage is going to make a champion strong, especially if they're a tank, and Chogath in the jungle, you build full tank on him. He does really well with the new Cinder Hulk buffs. You also get the Stone Plate Locket eventually, and because Chogath's ultimate, it does true damage and it also scales off of your health. The amount of damage you do with your ultimate when you pop the stone plate is insane, and then your locket shield is also insane. So overall, Chogath jungle in this patch is really good. And then in the mid lane as well, I think he's not a bad pick against some of these assassins. We're probably going to see a lot more Zed in the mid lane in this patch, and Chogath has always been a pretty good counter to Zed. Next up here is going to be one of the better lethality using champions in this patch in Pantheon. So Pantheon in the top lane and also in the mid lane in certain matchups is really good for this patch. He benefits from pretty much all of the lethality item buffs, and he's a champion that was already doing well in previous patches before lethality got buffed, so he's just even stronger now in patch 7.14. His matchups right now in the top lane are extremely good. He doesn't really lose to any top lane champion. His hardest counter, or the champion he does really well against in lane, in Fiora, even got nerfed this patch, so he's having a really good time right now up in the top lane. And if you are looking to climb from the top lane, then I'd be playing Pantheon in 7.14. Next up here is going to be a mid lane assassin in Talon. Now in my opinion, Talon is probably the best mid lane assassin in the game right now because of the lethality buffs. I think he's really strong right now, especially because Kassadin is one of the, or has been one of the strongest mid laners for a few patches, but with these AD champions coming back now in the mid lane, you can just pick Talon into Kassadin and you can stomp him in the laning phase and you can do really well in that matchup. So overall right now, Talon does have some pretty favorable matchups in the laning phase. He's always been one of the stronger laning assassins because his level 2 all-in with Ignite is just extremely strong. He's also one of the best roaming assassins, and because they did change the Yomus to where it now gives you bonus, I'm pretty sure it gives you 40 bonus movement speed out of combat now, it just makes his roams even stronger and it just allows him to get around the map really quickly. And then the third lethality champion here being featured in this video is Misfortune. So Misfortune for AD carry in this patch is a very strong pick. She's always been a pretty good pick, like for these past 2 patches. She hasn't really been super strong, but she also hasn't been extremely weak. And in this patch right now, with the lethality buffs, I think MF is definitely S tier now in patch 7.14. She's a very easy to play AD carry champion. All you do on MF is you stack that armor penetration, or you stack the lethality, and then you just hit one good ultimate with her, and that could just end up winning your team the game. Your mid-game power spike with MF when you get Dustblade and Yomus is extremely strong, so you should be looking at teamfight once you do pick up those core items, and as long as you can position well with MF in a teamfight and just hit R at the right time, you're going to do very well with her in this patch. Next up here is going to be Nunu. So Nunu right now is still a very good pick in this patch. I'm surprised that he's not receiving any sort of nerfs after sitting at a 57% win rate or 56% win rate for a few patches now. He's just a really good early game jungler, and if you are playing against one of these meta early game jungle champions that needs to snowball like a Lee Sin or like a Kha'Zix, then if you can play Nunu well and you can just invade them, shut them down in the early game, then they're going to be pretty useless, and as long as you can make the enemy jungler more useless than you are on Nunu, then you're doing your job right and you're going to have very good success on the champion. Cinderhulk buffs as well as just the support items being very strong on him right now, like Knight's Vow and the Stoneplate Locket combo, is another reason to why Nunu is a very strong pick in 7.14. So for the mid lane in this patch, there's really not too many OP picks. There's not too many picks that are just extremely strong that you need to be picking, other than probably Malzahar. So Malzahar is just a really good pick into most champions right now. He's a great pick into these assassins that are probably going to be coming back into the meta. He can also do well in most matchups other than Kassadin. I find Kassadin a little bit of a harder matchup, but you can just ban that out if you do have trouble against it. You just press R on this champion, you get free kills, and you win free games with him. So overall, especially if you are in the lower elos, I just think Melser is a very strong pick if you're looking to climb. Next up here is going to be another Cinderhulk jungler in Warwick. So I think that Warwick, other than Nunu, is probably one of the easier junglers that you can play. If you are in the lower elos, or even if you're in the higher elos, I think Warwick is just an extremely effective pick because he doesn't really take that much skill to play. He's a fairly straightforward champion, and he's also very strong. So when you combine those two things, like being a strong champion and also being easy to play, it just makes for a great pick for solo queue. And I think that Warwick just has a very good kit for solo queue, and he's very effective in patch 7.14. So right now, Zac is still a very good pick for solo queue. I don't think he's as OP as he was a few patches ago, but he's still an extremely strong pick, mainly because he's a super tanky champion. He also does a good amount of damage, and you also don't even need to land your E now on Zac to be effective on him. You can just throw your E out, not even care to hit it, and then as long as you land your Q on the opponent, then it's gonna burn their flash every single time pretty much when you are ganking during the laning phase. And it just makes this gank super potent, because if you do end up landing your E, then they're basically guaranteed dead, and if you don't land your E, you still have a very good shot to kill them. So the CC that this champion has in his kit is just super strong, which makes him a great champion for solo queue. Next up here is going to be a top laner that got a little bit over buffed in this patch in Singe. So Singe got a buff to all of his abilities in this patch, including his base health. So when you buff every single ability in a champion's kit, especially when they're decently strong buffs, then the champion is going to rise in power, and that's exactly what happened with Singed. Right now, the Singe players are doing super well in this patch. He does still have a pretty low play rate though, so not a lot of people are picking him up yet, and not a lot of people are banning him either. I'm pretty sure he is supposed to be getting a bit of a hot fix in this patch. I'm not too sure when that's supposed to drop, but right now he's a super strong top lane pick. The Righteous Glory on him, and then if you go Rylai's and Liandry's, is just a very strong build for him in this patch right now. So if Singe does not get hot fixed yet, and if the hot fixes aren't that good, then he's gonna stay a pretty strong pick throughout patch 7.14. And then lastly here, to round out the top 10 is going to be Draven. So I think right now Draven, he's one of the only champions that I see double banned almost every single time. He's one of the strongest AD carries, and he's one of the most banned champions right now for a reason, because his laning phase is just extremely strong. The item combination of like Death's Dance, Static Shiv just gives him a really good mid-game power spike. If you get ahead with this champion and you can play him well, if you can position decently, then you're gonna have great success on Draven in this patch right now. And even Kate got nerfed, which was one of the only champions who could do well into Draven in the laning phase, so he's even better right now in this patch. And if you're not picking or banning him, then you're probably gonna have a pretty hard time if he does end up on the enemy team. And then because I think there's just a lot of really strong picks right now in this patch, I'm going to be doing two honorable mentions for this video, and they're going to be Kha'Zix and Ramus. So Kha'Zix did benefit from those lethality buffs. I think that he is a very strong pick for sure, but the reason why I didn't have him on my top 10 is because why play Kha'Zix when you can play someone a lot easier and a lot more reliable in either Zac or Warwick, and you're going to always scale pretty well into the mid to late game with Warwick or Zac. They're tank champions, and they can also do quite a bit of damage. So when you are picking Kha'Zix, you do kind of have to snowball in the early game, and you do have to be effective there, because if you don't, then come mid to late game, your team fighting isn't as strong, and you will get outscaled by these champions that are going to be stacking armor. And then for Ramus, I think he's extremely sleeper OP right now in this patch. If the enemy team does have a full AD composition, then you should be insta-locking Ramus if you're a jungle main. I think this champion is pretty free low right now in this patch. Thornmail got those buffs in this patch, which help him out a lot. He also got a buff to his W to where it's not going to slow you for as much when you activate it. And then there's just been so many different buffs that help out Ramus recently, like the Cinderhulk changes as well as Righteous Glory. So if the enemy team does have a heavy AD composition, I'd be playing Ramus in 7.14. So that is going to be it for this video, guys. These are the 10 or I guess 12 champions, if you count the honorable mentions, that I think are extremely good right now in this patch. And if you are looking to climb in solo queue and that is your main goal, then for whichever role you do play, I'd be looking to add 1 or 2 of these champions to your champion pool. So with that being said, guys, thanks for watching. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you have yet to already, and I'll see you in my next video.